One of the most depressing global trends in recent years has been the persistent increase in the number of ongoing armed conflicts. With growing disregard for international law and human rights, an enormous spike in drone warfare, and now the emergence of military AI, 2026 is likely to see a continuation of this trend, leading to the deaths of tens of thousands more civilians. So, in this video, we'll take you through some of the world's ongoing and emerging conflicts, and how they might develop throughout 2026.
All right, let's jump into it.
Who is the most influential person in the world? Well, last year, the TLDR audience ranked Donald Trump as number 1, with these people all landing in the top 10. But do you agree? Click the link in the description to cast your...
Hold on, guys. Who is that person?
Well, last year, the TLDR audience ranked Donald Trump as number 1, with the...
Wait. That guy was Netanyahu, I think. This is Elon Musk. That was Zelensky. I have no idea who that person is. That's Xi Jinping. Who are these people? That's the guy from, not him. That's Putin. The guy before is the Indian guy. He's from India. He's from India. He's like the president or something.
Top 10.
That's Macron.
But do you agree? Click the link in the description to cast your vote for our 2026 ranking. The first and most recently inflamed conflict is between Thailand and Cambodia. In early December, clashes broke out between Thai and Cambodian troops on the disputed border of Preah Vihear province, one of several contested sites along the two countries' shared 800-kilometre border. The Thai military claimed that Cambodian soldiers had opened fire on a Thai engineering team repairing a road in Thailand's Sisaket province, while Cambodian authorities accused Thai soldiers of engaging in numerous provocative actions for many days. In the following days, at least 500,000 people fled the area, as airstrikes and gunfire continued, killing 23 people. Right, this recent escalation continued a series of clashes throughout 2025. In May, a Cambodian soldier was killed by gunfire in the same border region, and in July a multi-day clash erupted, prompting Malaysia, the head of ASEAN, and the US to broker a ceasefire, with an expanded peace agreement signed in October in the presence of US President Donald Trump. Political tensions have also risen between the two countries, after a leaked phone call earlier this year between former Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and Cambodia's longtime former leader Hun Sen revealed Shinawatra praising him while condemning her own Thai military commanders. This scandal brought down Paetongtarn's government and increased anti-Cambodian sentiment in Thailand, with a majority of the Thai public now believing Thailand shouldn't be associated with Cambodia. Thailand's new Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul has also taken a hard line on Cambodia and has ruled out any immediate negotiations, suggesting this conflict could potentially flare up again in 2026.
Yeah, it's not over. It's never over. These two countries right here, they don't like each other kind of like by default.
The next conflict
this is like historical.
Is the US's military buildup around Venezuela. Okay. Since late August, the US has deployed 15,000 troops and a dozen warships, as well as aircraft carriers, guided missile destroyers and helicopters, to the southern Caribbean near the Venezuelan coast, while simultaneously building up the US military presence on Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands. The US has claimed that this is about combating drug trafficking from Venezuela into the US, but it's pretty clear that they also want to pressure Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro out of power.
Okay, so yeah, we obviously now know that this is probably not the newest video on the planet.
Since September, the US has launched more than 20 strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats in international waters, killing at least 83 people. The most controversial of these took place on the 2nd of September, when US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly ordered a double-tap strike to kill survivors of an initial strike, which is broadly considered illegal under international law as an act of extrajudicial killing. Trump has also repeatedly hinted at US strikes on Venezuelan territory in the near future, saying it's going to be starting on land pretty soon. Moreover, in early December, the US military seized an oil tanker off the Venezuelan coast, an act the Venezuelan government described as blatant theft and international piracy, and imposed sanctions on 6 more ships said to be carrying oil.
I think we're good on... I think we're definitely very good on the Venezuela aspect of this here, because I think we already know that. Let's move into the next one here.
Moving to Europe now, where Russia's hybrid war has escalated in recent months, with analysts expecting further Russian sabotage attacks and subversion in 2026. For context, in September, Russian drones flew into Polish and Romanian airspace. Russian fighter jets flew into Estonian airspace, and suspected Russian drones were spotted near airports or military facilities in Denmark, France, Germany, Norway, and Belgium. In November, a Russian spy ship called the Yantar was suspected of mapping undersea cables between the UK and Norway, and had shone lasers at RAF pilots tracking it from above, prompting the two countries to announce a new joint submarine hunting alliance in December. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, Russia has ramped up its drone attacks on Ukrainian civilian and energy infrastructure since the summer, and Ukraine has also increased its own attacks on Russian oil facilities, including striking a target in the Caspian Sea for the first time this month. At the same time, the US's unequivocal turn away from Europe, marked by the Trump administration's recent national security strategy, which was well received in Russia, has renewed Europe's focus on defence readiness and deterrence. France and Germany have both recently announced new military service schemes, and the UK Armed Forces Minister also said this month that the UK was rapidly developing plans to prepare the country for war. Moreover, NATO chief Mark Rutte controversially said earlier this month that Europe should prepare for, quote, the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured. While a direct Russian-Europe conflict still seems a distant prospect, there has been a notable shift in rhetoric from European government officials.
But listen, based off of what's happening to the planet right now, is it plausible that we will be encountering some type of WW3? Oh yeah, it's super plausible based off of all of the these ridiculous kerfuffles that are kind of happening, around the planet right now. I definitely hope that we don't encounter this year, but I think Cuba, the scenario that's going on in Cuba right now is probably the most likely to kind of set things off in a way that we do not need.
In recent months, seemingly aimed at preparing their populations for war.
Because it's
the
not
US
them.
also wants Europe to replace its role
their
in
allies.
NATO by 2027. Unless a peace deal can somehow be negotiated in the coming months, which feels unlikely given the clear gap between the Russian and Ukrainian positions, the Ukraine war looks
no, hold on, go back.
Feels unlikely given the clear gap between the
you can't see any of that.
Russian and Ukrainian positions,
the
Ukraine war looks likely to continue for the foreseeable future, with Europe taking more of the
WW5,
strain.
maybe.
In February, the Russia-Ukraine war will enter its 5th year, and, as The Economist notes, on June 10th, the fighting will have lasted longer than the First World War. Let's move to West Africa now, where, for the past few years, jihadist insurgencies have escalated across several countries in the Sahel region, like Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, as well as spreading to coastal nations like Côte d'Ivoire and Nigeria. Current trends suggest that, in 2026, militant activity will expand further along the southern borders of the Sahel countries into Benin, Togo, Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. In the first 11 months of 2025, Benin saw 70% more fatalities compared to the same period in 2024, and jihadist attacks on security forces in western Mali, as well as kidnappings of foreign workers in Mali and Niger, have also surged to record highs in 2025. Conflict analysis suggests that 2026 will see a further consolidation of a new front line in the Benin, Niger and Nigeria borderlands, which is gradually becoming an area of competition for various militant groups, including Islamic State's West African factions. This is a serious crisis that probably doesn't receive as much media coverage as it should. Persistent instability has
because it doesn't make or break seriously any Western country. It does make or break most likely some of the families that are kind of in these regions, specifically working, that are in the West. It does, right? And some type of business interest, specifically when things get crazy, which they generally almost always are in that region.
The economic development of one of the poorest regions in the world, undermined state institutions and created a transnational refugee crisis. Moreover, since the US cut foreign aid in early 2025, humanitarian organisations and local NGOs operating in West Africa have faced severe funding shortfalls, further worsening the humanitarian situation. Let's move a bit further south now to Sudan, where civil war will enter its 3rd year in April 2026. The conflict, which has killed more than 150,000 people and internally displaced around 12 million, is being fought between the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, a paramilitary force allegedly backed by the UAE, which grew out of the Arab Janjaweed militia, and the Sudanese allegedly backed by the UAE, which grew out of the Arab Janjaweed militia, and the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF, which is backed by Egypt and Turkey. Sudan is now effectively split into two blocks governed by opposing sides. In October, the RSF...
And it's crazy because they're like both government officials, if that makes any sense here. Like the sides that are battling are basically battling for the country and to be the best protection or security force in the country. The problem is that you're getting rid of the people that make up the country. If that makes any sense here. Again, people are running from here. A lot of them are going to like local places and things like this that are kind of in the region, right? Egypt, I think, has tried to take a good amount of them. They're at their peak, basically. But long story short here, they're fighting for who can be the strongest, military force in the country, but they're absolutely deleting the whole country.
Controls much of Western Sudan and the Darfur region, captured the city of El Fasher after an 18-month siege. While the SAF still currently controls the capital Khartoum and eastern regions, it's increasingly under pressure in central Sudan's Kordofan region, where RSF advances threaten vital supply routes linking Khartoum to Darfur. Next year, analysts expect the conflict to continue, with each side seeking to consolidate its gains and fight for territory in Kordofan, despite a renewed effort by the so-called Quad Group of the US, UAE, Saudi Arabia and Egypt to negotiate a ceasefire. The final potential conflict to keep an eye on next year is Taiwan. Despite the US's long-standing policy of strategic ambiguity on Taiwan, Trump's return to office has heightened concerns among Taiwanese officials who worry that Trump might not intervene to defend the island in a potential conflict with China. Chinese President Xi Jinping is believed to have set a deadline of 2027 for the Chinese military to be ready to invade Taiwan.
Okay.
And this month, China deployed 100 warships across the East and South China Seas in its largest maritime show of force to date. At the moment, analysts think a Chinese blockade of Taiwan is more likely than an invasion, which would be one of the most logistically and geographically difficult military operations ever attempted. But even a naval blockade would risk economic backlash through sanctions on China by the US or its allies. That said,
like, us understand, Japan has already levied a whole bunch of craziness upon China. I get it. China's big, bad, is huge, right? A lot of people, I understand, right? But Japan is not playing games with China if they start messing with Taiwan. And then obviously we're going to get involved if Japan gets involved. And then now we have a big issue. It just seems like the spark of WW3, or the official WW3, let's just say, is going to involve China in some way. If it is Cuba, or if it is Taiwan. That's kind of where I'm at mentally.
America's so-called China hawks are concerned that China is preparing for a potential conflict,
right,
given its ongoing stockpiling of commodities like oil, gas, and critical metals. Although it's also possible that China is just stockpiling to ensure the security of its supply chains amid global trade uncertainty. Finally, we should end by acknowledging that there are also ongoing conflicts between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, Congo and Rwanda in East Africa, and India and Pakistan in Kashmir, as well as proxy conflicts in the Middle East, a civil war in Myanmar, and rising tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Sadly, as the ICRC points
the reason why you don't have to point those out is because those seem permanent.
Out, armed conflict is now a defining feature of our time, with 2026 likely to see a continuation of localized conflicts across the globe, and a widening gap between humanitarian need and provision. We're taking a break from regularly posting over the festive period.
Okay, guys. I think this is probably it. All right. Some of these here I've never heard of, right? Like specifically. But again, I have to kind of reiterate the point here. I think that if things get spicy, it's going to definitely involve China. Because China seems to like all of the places we do not like in the West, right? If that makes any sense here. Like through their Belt and Road Initiative, they've spent a lot of money in places where, are moderately, unfriendly to the United States of America. So kind of by default, the United States of America basically doesn't like these places because they're unfriendly to us, right? So now when it comes to Cuba, I don't think Cuba is going to be able to do really much here. I do know that there's going to be, they can't really do anything, truthfully, if it ever came down to the United States of America versus Cuba, at least, right? The big problem would be how much Russia and China are going to put in to kind of protect them if anything actually happens. And depending on how much they actually put in specifically, will be exclusively dependent upon how hard we kind of retaliate, let's just say this year. And that's kind of why I'm saying, like, I do think Cuba has the ability, because it's Cuba, right? To absolutely spark WW3. And the same thing with Taiwan. These two places right now are the ones that need to be looked at probably more than a lot of the other ones, because a lot of the other ones are not really, they don't really have the ability, let's say, to kind of spark like a gigantic, like WW type of scenario here, right?
Guys, do you want to watch movies with me? I never actually thought to like promote it over here, guys. But if you guys do want to watch it, guys, we have hundreds of movies, and I mean hundreds of movies that we've reacted to. You guys can come watch them with me if you want to, along with many TV shows. Currently, we're working on the show Dexter, along with Vikings, and we have a lot of series that are already completed. But if you guys do want to watch it with me, the link is in the description. Everything's available at the second tier. But of course, if that's not your thing, guys, don't worry. Right? Listen, like and subscribe.